morning, everyone. This is Francesco Abbruzzino with another Rogue Rant. Before I started my rant, though, I just wanted to talk a little bit about a situation that happened today. I was in the gym and listening to, I think it was Fox News, and they had an individual, African-American, John Riley, and he wrote a book, Please Stop Helping Us, and I encourage all of you to read it. I'm going to try to get him on for an interview because he basically sums up what the welfare state is doing to the African American and how it's keeping them down versus helping them. So I just wanted to say that before I went in my rant. Coincidentally, it coincides with what I am ranting about today. Now, keep in mind, these rants are basically I ran on a keyboard at night. And then the next morning I come out and I do the rant live. I ad lib, I add stuff to it. If I mess up, that's tough. It's a live show and I'll have to deal with it. But that's basically how the rants go, live and unedited. So the welfare state, or the welfare crutch I was going to call it. The most successful politicians at the polls is not the reformist with visionary ideas, people, but the man who is able to develop a message which resonates with his populace. A political system based solely on rhetoric will not produce tangible results, and many Americans are now reaping the disadvantages of this type of system, which they have been nurturing for years. We shouldn't be so quick to castigate our politicians because they do the bidding of most citizens, folks. Like their constituents, politicians emphasize welfare over wealth creation. So politicians who are interested in retaining their seat will support entitlement initiatives. I firmly believe that this is how Obama took office and has been able to retain office. We have Obama phones, Obamacare, significant increases in welfare and food stamps. Need I say any more, folks? About 50 years ago, President Lyndon Johnson announced the War on Poverty during his first State of the Union speech. Unfortunately, after 5 decades of countless unconstitutional federal welfare programs and more than $20 trillion later, the poverty levels remain largely unchanged, folks. Forbes estimates that the cost of some of these 185 federal programs is around $700 billion or $927 billion if we include the state's contributions. The dependence on government has reached unprecedented new heights, folks. With Obamonomics, 47 million Americans have become dependent on food stamps, over 100 million on welfare. The federal government runs over 70 different anti-poverty programs that provide cash, food, housing, medical care, and social services to the poor and low-income people. These programs supply such entitlements as food stamps, public housing, low-income energy assistance, and Medicaid. These programs pay the bills and meet the physical needs of tens of millions of low-income Americans. Here's the issue, folks. These programs do not help the recipients move from a position of dependence on the government to being able to provide for themselves. I believe there is only one welfare program that promotes greater self-reliance, and it's called TANF, or Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. TANF has moved approximately 2.8 million families off the welfare rolls and into jobs that they were providing for themselves. This is what we need out there, folks. The U.S. needs to implement the following reforms, which will face a struggle with the politicians that are in office now and even the future ones. They need to slow the growth of the welfare state. Financially, we can't handle it anymore, folks. They need to start promoting personal responsibility in work, providing a portion of the welfare assistance as loans rather than a free grant, ending the welfare marriage penalty and encouraging marriage in low-income communities, and limit low-skill immigration. This massive, unending growth in welfare entitlements is not what President Johnson had in mind when he launched the War on Poverty. I am sure he never intended to produce a system of government aid and growing population that is dependent upon government for their monthly entitlements. Instead, I believe he wanted to shrink the welfare state by curing causes of poverty versus seeking to expand the welfare state. He hoped to eliminate the future need for welfare by making the poor self-sufficient and prosperous. That makes sense, doesn't it, folks? Things are not going as President Johnson had planned, though. Since the beginning of the war on poverty, the U.S. has spent $15.9 trillion on welfare. Instead of reducing the cause of poverty, their spending has made the problem dramatically worse by undermining intact families and eroding the work ethic in low-income communities. The welfare state has made families less capable of supporting themselves today than they were when the war on poverty began, folks. The continuing rapid growth of welfare spending is unsustainable. The U.S. can no longer afford the automatic and unlimited growth of welfare entitlements. Careful attention must be paid to the underlying causes of poverty and welfare dependence. Welfare has grown from rapidly, in part, because the government has rewarded and encouraged conditions that lead to dependence. In particular, the decline in the marriage, chronic low levels of work among the poor, and the immigration of millions of persons without high school degrees are major factors in leading to the levels of poverty on a burgeoning welfare state. In the future, government policy should encourage constructive behaviors leading to self-reliance and prosperity rather than rewarding counterproductive behaviors leading to the costly dependence and poverty. This has been Francesco Abbruzzino with another Rogue Rant.